Hi, this is Dave Chenault with Skylight Systems, and in this video, I'm going to show you the basic steps required to set up SideKick365 xRM Ultimate. So let's get started. The first thing you'll notice is that I need to either set up a new team site in an existing site collection, or I can set up a new site collection. And setting up a new team site is really easy. From Office 365, you can just go to the Admin Center for SharePoint and create a new site collection. Or if you have an existing site collection and you want to install it there, go ahead and create a new team site anywhere in that site collection. Let's take a look how to do that. All you do is go to Site Contents, and then you create a new subsite, give it a name, and that's where you want to go ahead and set up SideKick into. Let's go back now and take a couple looks at how we install the app. So now you've decided you want to make the purchase. Either it's going to be a trial or you want to go ahead and buy it. So all you do is go up to the little gear and say add an app. And what you'll do is you can just go into the SharePoint store. And if you click on CRM, you're going to see our app listed there. And there's two ways you can purchase it. You can buy it either as a subscription, or you can purchase it for a one-time price. So the choice is really up to you. Again, if you want to do a subscription, then you can just purchase that. It's $19.99 a month. Or you can go in and buy a one-time price, and I think that's $2.99. And it's going to be based upon your local currency. So I'm just waiting here on the SharePoint store to come along. I also know that it's highlighted, so I'll go ahead and just do that to move things along. And all I want to do is I can go ahead and buy it here, or I can try it. And when I do that, I can say I want to buy it just for me, or I can do it for more people. And I can put however many I want to put in. If I wanted 5, and I could click buy it. Or I could say try it, and I can get it installed as a trial where everyone can use it for the next 30 days at no charge. So it's pretty simple. You just go ahead and purchase it here in the store. It'll take you through a number of screens and take you back into the site. Let's go back there now. So we'll get out of this catalog that's still loading. And so here I am back, and we can pretend that we had just purchased it. If you look at it, now if you want to add this, it would have already added it for you, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Let's say I already purchased it, and one thing to talk about while this is happening is you can install SideKick up to 5 times within your SharePoint tenant. So that's pretty interesting, because what that means you can do is you could set up different companies or maybe different locations, etc., that would not talk to each other. And you can buy SideKick. It'll just be available there in the apps you can add from your organization. And then you can go ahead and add it in. Now, another neat thing is on these language options. SideKick is available in 13 different languages, as you can see here. Now, we're adding more all the time. So if you wanted to, you can pick the language here. It could be, let's say, Spanish or UK English or Swedish, etc. And it would install that into the site that you picked. By default, it's going to pick whatever you've set up in your site settings. And let's take a look at that real quick. So if I go to Site Settings, and I go into Language Settings, I'm going to be able to see what languages are going to be set by default on this particular site in SharePoint. So here you can see the default is English, and then they have a way you can also do alternate languages as well. And that's a topic for another video. So in this case, we've got English set up as the default, and I'm just going to hit the back. Let's look at the other setting here, which is the regional setting. Now, if I take a look here, I can see I've got English United States, but I could pick different versions of English. And we've actually written versions for the United Kingdom, for South Africa, for some other places in the world that are slightly different. Australia has a slight variation. Instead of zip code, they might use postal code. Instead of state, they might use a territory, something like that, right? So you can set up different options here for the English location that you want to use, those kind of things. So, okay, I'm fine with the way things are set up here. I've got English set up in the United States. And if I just choose to install the app, it'll pick that up by default. But if I wanted to, when I say add an app, I've already added it into a site collection above this, so it's sitting here ready to go. We have a license all set up. When I select this, I could overwrite that default characteristic here and pick a different language. So I could actually have, let's say, a Spanish version of SideKick365 running in an English hosted site. That is possible. And I've done that in the past for demos. Just something to know about. That might actually be a good reason if you had different teams that use different languages. You might set up different sites. You wouldn't share information across those today, maybe in the future. But for now, you might set up a different site with a different default language. In any event, I'm going to go ahead and stick with what it's picked for me, and I'm going to say trust it. And it'll take a minute, and it'll go ahead and add this app into the site. So I'm going to pause this video for a minute while it does that. Okay, we're back, and you'll see that the app has been added over here on the left-hand side. You can see SideKick365 xRM Ultimate listed here. And so now the next thing we want to do is let's go in and take a look at how do we add in the users. And this will give us a minute to talk about licensing and users and all that stuff. So with the users, the first thing we want to do is go into the site settings in the site that holds SideKick, which is this one here. And I'm going to go into the people and groups. And rather than watching me type a lot of stuff, I went ahead and set up a bunch of users already. I've added in the people that need to access SideKick365 xRM Ultimate into the members group here. So if you take a look at more, you're going to see there's a few groups set up here. And these are the main ones that always get set up with every site. You're going to have members, owners, and visitors. So go into members, and then you want to go ahead and add in the people that are going to be using the app. Okay, so that's sort of step one. Once they've been added, then we'll go over to site contents. And what you'll do is once you get to the site contents, you'll see that there's an option next to it that'll say licenses. In our case, this is interesting to look at. We've installed it with a site license. So in this case, we don't have anything about licenses because everyone in the entire organization can use this without licensing. So that is an option. And you'll notice here it looks a little different because it doesn't have the license option. I went ahead and picked one from the store though. And this guy actually does have the licenses. And what you'll want to do is just pretend that this was SideKick. And you'll want to go into the license page and you want to add a license to each person that needs to access it. Okay, so this one has it purchased, but what you would do is there would be a listing here. It would show you how many licenses you have, and then you could come down in here and add in people. And you could also have people that are managers. And this is another interesting area. So managers don't have to have a license, but they can manage who is able to access the licensing and assign licensing. So that's an interesting concept. You could be a license manager and manage the licenses of the app and not even have a license yourself. And that kind of makes sense. If you think about it, why should you have to buy a license to an app just to manage the licensing, right? So if you have an IT person that does not need to access SideKick365 xRM Ultimate, you could make them a manager of the licenses. And we always suggest that you have two people here in case one of them is sick. And then you can go ahead and assign different people. Now you can also go in here and you can view in the SharePoint store this particular app. So we'll go to this one here. It's kind of interesting. And then if you wanted under more actions, you can manage the licenses, you can add licenses, you can delete it, You can have people request, et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line is that licenses and permissions on the site are related, but they're not the same. Let's kind of recap. What you're going to want to do is once you set up your site and add the app, you want to go into the site settings, and you want to go into the people and groups option under users and permissions. And you want to add in everyone that needs to access Sidekick into the members group. Do you see that? And then you go into the site contents. You'll see the icon here. When you click on it, you'll see an option just like this one that says licenses. Click on that, and then you can go into the licenses and you can assign licenses there. Now, licenses can be reassigned at any time. You don't have to keep that with that named user. But each time you log in, it's going to say, hey, who are you? And do you have a license to use this? So if someone leaves the company, you can remove that person from the license. It'll put it back in the bucket of licenses that you have. And then you could reassign it to somebody else. So that's kind of how you do licenses. Now, what we want to do is we want to add in some helper lists. We've got everything set up now for people to use the app. Now we want to go in and we want to have the list set up to do email on an outgoing basis. I want to send out newsletters, those kind of things. And I also want to synchronize contacts. So we had to get pretty tricky here because some of this is not allowed within the app. So what we did is we figured out how we could work with a list here in the site that holds Sidekick, and then manipulate this so it works and lets us send emails, lets us synchronize contacts, etc. So if you want to use outgoing email in the campaigns functionality of Sidekick, and if you want to synchronize contacts with Outlook, so that you have the same contacts in Sidekick as you do in Outlook, and you add one in Outlook, it goes to Sidekick, add one in Sidekick, it goes to Outlook, then you're going to need to add a couple of helper lists. And this is all explained in the setup guide, but I'll show you how to do it in this video. It's really simple. Just go to Site Contents. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a new list, which is right where we are here. And I'm going to say Add an App. And I'm going to pick Custom List to be my first one. This is going to be the list that we use for XRM emails. So if I say XRM space EMAILS, it has to be exact like that. Say Create. And then what I'm going to want to do is add in a few columns, okay? So here I've got XRM emails. I click on it. And I get this sort of a blank looking list. Now in my notepad, I know what I've got to add. So if I look at it, the first one I want to add is address, and it's a single line of text. So let's go ahead and do that. So how do I do that? I just go here and click once. I go to List. I say List Settings. And I just scroll down here to create a column. Okay. And I'm going to type in address. And it's going to be a single line of text, and everything else is fine. Just say OK. Don't want to require it, enforce it, add it to default. That's fine. Maybe maximum characters, that's fine. OK. So I have address. What's the next one? Subject, single line of text. Let's do that one. Create a column. It's going to be subject. And the case is important, so capital S, single line of text, that's fine. What's the next one? Multiple lines, body. Okay, this is a little different. Let's go take a look at this. Create a column. This one will be called body when it comes up. The multiple lines of text. That's fine. It'll kind of redraw my screen here. 6 lines is fine. It can be more. I make it 10. Doesn't matter that much. As default, say OK. And this is where the actual newsletter is going to go, the body of the newsletter, etc. And then on the final column, it has to be date of email. It's kind of a funny name, so I'll just copy it to make sure I get it. And it's a date time. So I'll do this. Date of email. and look down here, date and time. That's fine. And I could do date only or date and time. I'm going to do date only. I don't really care that much about the time, but maybe you care, maybe I don't. So that's fine. I'll add to default. So there's my first helper list. I've got it set up. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, the next thing I want to do is add in the workflow to this. Okay, so let's go back to xRM emails. And we're going to go ahead and add in the workflow that sends out how to do these emails. So I'll pause while we get ready for that. Okay, so we're back. Now let's go ahead and upload that workflow so we can have it send emails for us. And the way it works is that it creates a list of emails to send out in that list that we just created, that helper list. And at midnight plus 1 minute on the day that you specify, those emails are then sent out using this workflow that we're about to install. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to select the home option here. And I'm now going to go into Site Settings and Solutions. So I pick Site Settings. I scroll down here to Solutions. And that's underneath the Web Designer Galleries. So let's go look at those guys right here. And I'm going to upload a solution. Now, we will send this to you. Just email us at info@skylightsystems.com, and we'll send you a zip file with this solution. Let me go get it. And it's sitting out here in our file system. And let me grab that. And it's this send email. It's a WSP file. So I say open, and I say OK. It shouldn't take very long. And once it's uploaded it, I'm going to go ahead and activate it. And this is all described in the manual. So now it's going to be activated. You can see it's activated. Now I want to go back into the site settings here. And I'm going to select Manage the Site Features right here underneath Actions. And what we're going to want to do is just scroll down to see that workflow template called Send Email. So if I scroll down to the bottom, let's see if I can find it down there. There it is, Send Email Template Dev, activate it. Okay. And then finally, the last thing we want to do once it's activated, let's go take a look here. So there it is, that's good. Let's go back to the list. So I'll go to xRM emails. And I'm going to go now into the list settings right here. And now what I want to do is activate that new workflow. So if I go to workflow settings, I want to pick that. I'm going to associate that workflow with this list. So what I should see here is the ability now, I say for this list, I'm going to add a workflow. Let's see if we can find it. So there's my send email, okay. And then what I want to do is the name, I can just give it a name for it. We'll just say send email. And then I'll do it, a task list is fine, a history is fine. What I want to do is make sure that it gets sent out. I can manually start, or anytime something's created, it'll start that for me. Now I want to make sure to click that box. That's important because what happens is as you set up these mail campaigns, it makes an entry into that list that we just created. So this workflow will get queued to kick off on the day that we specify. So that is a particularly important checkbox right there. Make sure you choose that and say, okay. You can always go back later and update it, but that's what you do. And now everything is set up so that when we're in SideKick, you can see that the send email is ready to go. And it'll go ahead and send emails for us when we're in SideKick. And let's take a look at that real quick. So we get into SideKick. You'll remember from some other videos, if you've not watched, you'll see in some other videos that we have the idea of a campaign list where you can make lists of people that you're going to send emails to. And then you set up campaigns where you can go in and fire off various campaigns. And these are actually really cool. because these campaigns let you put in straight HTML. So if I say new item, we'll look at this just for a moment. What you would do is you'd set up a campaign group, that's what we call it, and that lets you pick from lists that you create in SharePoint. And then you can pick that one right here in your group. This is the people that get it, give it a name, the day you want it to go out. And then what's really cool is right here, you can actually embed HTML right into the page. So if you have an email manager program, let's say one that creates nice formatted emails, you just copy and paste the HTML in, or you can also copy and paste and see how it looks. You can do some tests. So very powerful stuff built into the new version. Okay, so that's the helper list for emails. Let's just finish up now with contacts. I'll pause it while we get things set up. Okay, I'm back and we're on the home stretch. Now we're going to set up the helper list for xRM contacts. And this is the one that's used to synchronize with Outlook. So here's what we do. The same idea as before. Go to Site Contents, and we're going to call this one xRM space contacts. So add an app. This time, though, it's going to be a contact list. So let's find that on this page. It'll take just a moment. We'll wait for this to load. And when we're recording things, everything seems to slow down a bit, so just bear with me while we load the page. Okay, so we got the page loaded now, and I know that contacts are on the second page, so they're sitting right here. So this is what's important. Make sure you pick a contact type list, because that gives us some nice functionality. And this one's going to be called xRM space contacts with a capital C. And make sure you type it carefully, xRM contacts, just like that, and create it. Now this one's real easy. We just have to add one field. It's kind of a funny one. It's a number field. It's called app record ID, no spaces. And we'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click on my xRM contacts. And I'm just going to go to my site settings, like we did last time, my list settings, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and add a column. So my create column. Remember, it's a number field, so I'm just going to say I copied that and pasted it in. It's a number. So it'll redraw here a second. Everything's fine. And say OK. Okay, now we're almost done. This is a simple one. Now I just go to xRM contacts list. I'll just click there. And what I want to do is select once like this to make sure that list is highlighted. And now I say connect to Outlook. And there's a nice wizard that takes care of everything for me. So when I come in here, it'll take just a moment. You'll see connect to Outlook. It'll load up Outlook. It'll take a minute. And then it's going to give me a series of questions to run here. So we'll let it do its thing. And it says connect this SharePoint contacts list out. Yes. And it's going to look like this 262 thing. So say OK. You can see it's building it here. So we have a whole video on this, but what's really cool is that when you add something here, it'll automatically add it into SideKick. And when you add something in SideKick, it'll automatically add it into here. So that's our helper list. It's that simple in the contact section. And that is the end of this video. I just wanted to show you the basic steps you go through to set up the helper list, set up the users, set up the permissions on the site, and also to add the licenses. Now we have other more detailed videos that you should also watch. We've got how to set up email and Office integration. So how can you save emails in to SideKick? We have how to set up permissions. So if you wanted to have sales groups and you want to have one group work with certain people and not see other things, we have a whole series of videos on those. We have content types, and those are great because they let you set up templates, like a OneNote template or an Excel template that you can use if you're going to do like home inspections, that kind of a thing. And then finally, if you want to create email newsletters, we have videos on that and show you how to do that and take you step by step on creating an email group list as well as the campaign itself. And we work with some partner companies that are really good at that. So that's enough for this video. Thanks for all your patience in getting it set up. Make sure to take a read through the guide that we put together. And if you watch this video and read through the guide, you can always come back to any part that's confusing. And it should be able to get you all set up just watching this video and reading the guide. If you have any questions at all, you can always reach out to us at info@skylightsystems.com, and that's SKYLITESYSTEMS.com. And again, it's just skylightsystems.com, like down here in the bottom. Thanks for your time, and watch all the other videos.